Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is kushalmehra. So, today's podcast is about this recent circular that was published. It was an advertisement, to be very precise, by the UPSC for lateral entry recruitment for mid level positions. Now, it's been kind of a comical journey because at first we had a lot of uh, messages from even BJP ministers talking about it, and then in one day Rahul Gandhi came up and Rahul Gandhi complained about it, and then Chirag Paswan said that I'm going to talk to the honorable Prime Minister of India about this, and then the news came out that the honorable Prime Minister of India has ordered the UPSC to remove the circular, and lateral entries into mid-level recruitments for the UPSC have been put on hold as of now, and the government has laid down. This is a brief summary, but now having given a summary, I reached out to Tushar. Today's podcast is going to explain. Listen, I want to put my views on record. I think it's a tragedy that the lateral entry has been taken back. That's my personal view, because I believe lateral entries at a fundamental level are great for India. They're fantastic for India, and it's a tragedy that it has happened, but it is what it is. Political compulsions are political compulsions, and if you want to criticize the government, you can criticize the government in a fair manner for that. But what has happened since then is there is a lot of misinformation that has been spread, and also people have not understood what the lateral entry was for about in the first place. So I reached out to Tushar. I said what we can do in today's podcast is we can first explain what the lateral entry circular was for about exactly, and what the advertisement was for what advertisement has been held back, not taken back as of now, and what's
Yeah.
going to be happening later on. And as the BJP lost its mojo, they seem to be taking too many bills back, Tushar. And then I reached out to Tushar. Full disclosure, um, I want to put this on record. I want to appreciate Tushar because poor guy literally made this list for me. I had been doing, see, my problem is because I run the podcast, editing, and so many other things are done, and plus my reading, I just can't sit down and make these lists. I actually personally reached out to Tushar. I told him, yahan milega Tushar sab kuch. But credit to Tushar, poor guy sat down, made the entire list all by himself, all alone. So I want to put this on record that the list that you're going to be shown eventually is all Tushar. It has nothing to do with me, and I want to give credit where it's due. Now, Tushar, go for it and explain the entire kerfuffle.
So, lateral entry. First things first, the government, or rather the UPSC, not to be confused with the government, put out this advertisement for 45 lateral entries. And these were three different positions, designations, from junior to secretary level. Now, the point was that the Prime Minister, and since 2018, he's been very firm about this, that our economy is evolving in a complex manner. New sectors are coming up, new areas are coming up. The entire digitization has opened up new avenues. We need new experts. To give you one example, for the last 10 years, just by the virtue of the welfare data we have generated so much quantum of data at the household level कि उसको प्रोसेस करने के लिए आपको एक प्राइवेट सेक्टर सोल्यूशन चाहिए. Just to give one very simple example, if you look at 10 welfare schemes, imagine the kind of household data you can generate about nutrition, about women health, about child health, about a life expectancy, about consumption, blah, blah, blah. So, just to carry out from that example, the Prime Minister said we need sector experts. And this was institutionalizing it through UPSC. पहले lateral entry कैसे होता था उस पर हम आएंगे, but the idea was let's institutionalize it, let's have a process for it so that tomorrow no one gets up and says अरे ये कैसे allot हो गया आदमी या ये कैसे part है. So now when the advertisement came out, the one question everyone had was what about reservations in it, what about social justice in it, and things like that, which was a fair question because UPSC also has reservations. No surprises there. Now, there are several layers to this subject, so we'll go layer by layer. The first layer was of the process head. The government said, fair enough. There are reservations in UPSC also. There, of course, there has to be a system even here which is transparent, which is verifiable as it is in UPSC. So they went for social justice parameters, and of course, the director was given to the DOPT, and then they withdrew the advertisement, the UPSC fellows, and that was it. But what people mistook it as, and this is the first layer west to that, was they said, oh, this is a defeat of merit. Now, the lateral entry is not at all only about the social component or the social justice component or the caste component. The government is only saying, boss, we still need the expertise. We still need that experience. We still need people who have done wonderfully in the private sector, but we cannot just simply bypass the process to get whoever we may like, or by not following the process that is already established for the UPSC. That was all, that was it. अब अगर आपको तकलीफ इस बात की है अरे कि लेटरल एंट्री में रिजर्वेशंस क्यों है, ये मेरिट को मार रहा है, नहीं, ये मेरिट को नहीं मार रहा है. इट्स नॉट किलिंग मेरिट बिकॉज यू स्टिल नीड टू बी एन एक्सपीरियंस्ड professional. The eligibility, if someone read through that advertisement, clearly stated 10 to 15 years of experience for some posts. I think the most junior post warranted 7 years of work experience. So work experience is needed. There would be a proper process. So I don't know how this entire discussion became only about the social component, and people said, oh, merit has taken a back foot. That was the first mistake that people made. Now, is lateral entry going away for good? Absolutely not. The government also, in that letter, it was written that it needs to be reviewed. It doesn't need to be withdrawn. There's a difference between the two words. And the notification, the advertisement, whatever you want to call it, it's going to come out at a later date. अब कुछ लोग दूसरी लेयर पे आते हैं, कुछ लोगों ने इसको ऑपोजिशन की विक्ट्री बना दिया. Modi has fallen to the pressure or succumbed to the pressure of caste census from the opposition. Rahul Gandhi, who likes to beat his own trumpet all the time, was going around saying, देखिए हमने lateral entry पे वापस करवा दिया. अरे भाई उसने कुछ नहीं करवाया. This is a process which was institutionalized back in 2018 before the 2019 elections. How does it have any bearing on what Rahul Gandhi says or doesn't say?
I want to first focus now on the concept of lateral entry itself. Now, give you a historical context about lateral entries. The most famous lateral entry in the history of Indian politics is Dr. Manmohan Singh. People,
Yes.
Raghuram Rajan, बड़ा कांग्रेस वालों को रघुराम राजन के बारे में was he through a cadre system or was he a
Yes.
lateral entry into the system?
Lateral entry.
Lateral entry into the system. Now, ये check कर लेना. I think it was Somnath Mukherjee. Somnath ने ये tweet किया था, and I went and checked it out. I think Somnath is right. विजय लक्ष्मी पंडित, कपिल वात्स्यायन, पुपुल जयकर, पीएन धर, ये सारे lateral entry है. नेहरू फैमिली के प्यारे प्यारे बच्चे, नेहरू फैमिली के राज दुलारे, दिल के प्यारे, खुद उसके परिवार वाले भी lateral entry हैं. तो मेरे को एक बात बताओ कि ये मतलब lateral entry से प्रॉब्लम है इनको, तो डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह से प्रॉब्लम हो गई है क्या? क्या मतलब मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. So what is Rahul Gandhi trying to say? Listen, my biggest worry is that the government, and this is my critique of the government, Tushar may not agree with me. I think the government made the biggest mistake that for 10 years they tried to project Rahul Gandhi as a pappu. I think that was the biggest mistake of the government. I think the government thought that he benefits them, so isko bolne do, hamara fayda hota hai. Rahul Gandhi is the embodiment of evil. Rahul Gandhi stands for everything that will destroy the Indian Union. Rahul Gandhi stands for everything that is bad news for India. And Rahul Gandhi will spin everything to get his way or her way as long as he becomes the Prime Minister of India. That's the only thing Rahul Gandhi wants. My biggest grouse with the government is that they did not pin Rahul Gandhi down sufficiently. They thought by calling him a pappu, their job is done. That in my view. As far as lateral entries are concerned, unfortunately, what has happened is most people have not worked with the government or don't know people in the government and do not understand how governments function. I'll give you an example. Now, there's something called OSD, Officer on Special Duty. Is that a lateral entry or not? Every minister, whether Congress or BJP, has always had an officer on special duty. I don't want to take names. I know some of them. And the biggest question I wanted to know your view on was, there was the NSC during the Sonia Gandhi time. Is the NSC a lateral entry or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, there's a difference between, so okay, let's address it one by one. On the question of Pappu and evil, it's easier to say this in hindsight, but I personally believe, and this is my personal opinion, people may agree or disagree, India's opposition has also evolved from being a Pappu to being a pawn in the last 10 years, and now we're in the 15th year, assuming 5 years of Lok Sabha, right? पहले ऑपोजिशन की अपनी खुद की आवाज थी. यू गो बैक टू द डिसरप्शंस इन 2014. it was still sane. It made sense. In 2019, it became opposing for the sake of opposing. That it was evident during COVID. 23, 24, the kind of agenda they've been running, it makes me wonder at a personal level, is this India's opposition, or is this a pawn in some greater global game we do not understand yet? That is my question to everyone. And I post this every day. कि भाई इनको ये करना है, ये सोच क्या रहे हैं? Doesn't Congress know that restoring 370 is a death knell in Kashmir, and still they're going around with NC hanging out with them, promising their probably some of the cadres that they might restore it. So 2014 to 2022, the opposition was very different. Now it has actually turned into a great evil sort of a disaster. ये fiscal mismanagement, कर्नाटका में आज देखो पानी के बिल्स बढ़ा दिए, बहुत चीजें ऐसी हो रही है जो समझ नहीं आ रहा कि अपने पांव पे कुल्हाड़ी क्यों मार रहे हैं. Because okay, fine, the BJP is in government today in some states. Tomorrow you might be there. Why are you screwing up your own fiscal future if you're aspired to run the government one day? Number one. Number two, on OSDs. The OSDs, of course, do not all of them do not enjoy the joint secretary level kind of perks and pensions. So there was obviously this difference between the two. But yes, people who are sort of looking at the government from the outside, they think that lateral entry was the only way to have talent in the government, though the government consults private sector on a lot of things. Aapka pura tax ka portal, aapka pura GST ka portal, it's private sector. The government consults them. That is what we call public-private partnership, and that is very, very common even at a state government level. Even it's done by the Congress as well. So when people say, oh, lateral entry is the only way to encourage merit in the government, yes and no. It's not the complete answer. Number three, on NAC. There is something very interesting I want to share with you, and if we can put this up. It's a newspaper clipping from 1990 of the Indian Express. And it might take a time to load because it's from Google News Archives. I'll talk to you about one lateral entrant who has an interesting classification of Indians. Usko North Indians whites लगते हैं, West Indians Arabic लगते हैं, East Indians Chinese लगते हैं, और South Indians उसे पता नहीं क्या लगते हैं. And he was reinstated after these stupid comments by the Congress. If you can just drag it very slowly, because then otherwise the page doesn't load. Scroll it towards your left. I'm sorry. Go to the article. ऊपर जाओ वापस. Sorry, on the right. I mean, ऊपर. You're going right. अभी सही जा रहे थे यार. Yeah. Go to the rightmost corner of the page. Grain output के left में. अरे भाई. Okay, I'll just give a screenshot instead. Hold on. So Sam Petroda was a lateral entrant. In 1989, he was made the chairman of the Telecom Commission. A big entry, one would say, a big entry. Mm-hmm. 3 years later, he was infamously moved out of the commission, and it was documented in this newspaper clipping. Let's just try and put in screenshot of this because it's important. So I want people to sort of see. तो lateral entry तो NSE तो बहुत recent बात है. अगर आप 1980s में भी जाओ, 1972, Manmohan Singh starts as the chief economic advisor. Now people will say he has great credentials. ये वो 1976 he makes it to the finance ministry. What happens in 1990? We have a BOP crisis. So if you want to analyze Congress's lateral entries, that is one way. You have the screenshot now, Kushal. I've put it to you on WhatsApp. Yeah. Okay. Apologies if this probably did not work out as I thought it would. But Congress has a history of lateral entries, and it was done on their whims and fancies. We do not know on what credentials Manmohan Singh was appointed. Fine, he had a fancy degree and all that, but his entry as the chief economic advisor and as a secretary in the finance ministry ended up with the BOP crisis in the 1990. Number one. Now, this is the newspaper clipping I'm talking to you about from 1990, Indian Express. PTI ki feed se. Petroda was starting to be removed, and read the bottom line. The CAG on May wanted to look into the performance and transactions of C. and if they are influenced or not. There's a huge story behind it, which is still not researched, and I urge people to go back in time and research about it. But this was lateral entries of the Congress. Whims and fancies, close to the family, unappointed. Now let's come to the NAC. The NAC, as everyone remembers, had a very active role in the legislature. उसके लोग कैसे अपॉइंट हो रहे थे किसी को नहीं पता. दे वर इकोनॉमिस्ट, दे वर एजुकेशनलिस्ट, एक्टिविस्ट. वी डोंट नो हाउ दे वर अपॉइंटेड. ये जो पार्लियामेंट में खड़े होकर पूछते हैं कि कितने ओबीसी हैं सेक्रेटरीज, वर देयर एनी एससीज एसटीज एंड ओबीसीज, वी डोंट नो. We don't know how many of them were there. One interesting character who was there was John Grace, who was recently detained by the Delhi police for doing what? Conducting a pro-Palestinian protest. This is NSE. क्या कर रहा था वो वहां पर हमें नहीं पता. Montek Singh Ahluwalia, another very significant face during the UPA times, was a
Someone I
lateral
respect a
entry.
lot. Someone I respect a lot.
That's why I said a significant face. Raghuram Rajan was one. So it's not like lateral entries were not there before the BJP came in. What the BJP was trying to do was institutionalize them. That there needs to be a fair process because Congress के time की appointments किसी ने scan नहीं करी है. किसी ने भी नहीं. आप सैम पिट्रोडा को अपने टेलीकॉम कमीशन में चेयरमैन बना दिया. ठीक है. कुशल, उस दिन राजीव गांधी had his birth anniversary. People are going about saying, oh, he bought the IT revolution. Somehow this narrative has been shoveled down our throats that Sam Pitroda was helming the IT revolution. What IT revolution was? 2014, you had 16 crore internet users, broadband was inaccessible, data costs were high, people did not even know what digital banking is, plastic money was so less. Kya IT revolution? We have 95 crore internet users in India today. That's 80 crore more since 2014, last 10 years. We have 53 crore first time bank account holders who know how to make digital payments, who can use debit cards. We have data cost down by 94% since 2014. We have around, I don't know, 800, 900 million on mobile internet, not just broadband, mobile internet. तो राजीव गांधी, सैम पिट्रोडा कौन सा आईटी रेवोल्यूशन लाए मुझे नहीं पता. कहां लेकर आए ये भी मुझे नहीं पता. We were struggling for getting a landline connection until the late 90s. So this whole idea, na dekho, Sam Pitroda is a telecom guy and he, has this geeky look over his face. सब झूठ है. सब झूठ है. And the same story with the NSE.
Yeah, well, IT revolution is in your shirt. IT revolution is in your pant. I guess that's the the problem with Indian discourse right now is that I just fail to understand how many lies are you going to correct. I, I'm just stating right now because social media has you know hyper accentuated the entire process of information generation, and by the time you're checking one, there are like 1 million. And because there is no defamation as such in India, that you can just say anything and you can just pretty much bullshit your way through, uh, you know presenting anything as a fact. And I'm not saying this is like a Congress thing or a X thing or a Y thing. I just think it's become so much on the internet. Like I see this in the Canadian discourse also now. People purposely will clip segments and just put it across in a very different way, and the entire context of the thing changes. Like a prime example was that of that recently was on this guy pretending to be an Indian and doing an Indian accent, and he was just mocking Canadians, and then the last 7 seconds of his clip were purposely removed.
Hmm.
If you put it in the whole context, you'll be like, "Arey, ye to masti kar raha hai," or ulta, he says, "Yo, yo, yo, the racism is off the hook," kind of a situation. And this is what is happening with our discourse, whether it's like, the prime example was the way Saket Gokhale treated Barkat Dutt yesterday.
Oh,
The prime
oh.
example was that the way, because Saket's baseline is, I will heckle you, because that's what social media has taught most people now, that a good argument is when you're heckling your interlocutor. And
Yes.
let me state this, a lot of BJP people are also now guilty of that going online. A lot of people are just heckling their way through arguments, and kudos to Barkha, who stood up to the bullying of Saket Gokhale. And I hope nothing less than that when a BJP person does that to Barkha or any other journalist. There has to be a limit to heckling, man. What happened to decency and having a conversation? Like,
You
what
know,
Saket tried to do was exactly what everybody does to each other on social media.
It's no surprise that probably Barkha Dutt and I would be on the opposite ends of ideological spectrum. Yet, when I was on her debate, and it was on the alleged exit poll market scam, you remember that exit polls per market tricky, and it was a very sort of a light-hearted conversation. And what I'm trying to say is, you can have a good conversation with someone you disagree on something. It's not impossible. What Saket Gokhale was doing yesterday was what another TMC spokesperson was doing the same evening at the 9 p.m. Republic debate, where I was there and Advaita Kala was there. Advaita Kala was making her point. Arnab was hosting that debate, and he was just sort of heckling her in between. And by the end of her monologue, she almost lost her calm. This is what most of them do. Riju Datta Hek, I do a lot of debates with him, heckling. Look, I understand you are some superior political force in Bengal, but that doesn't take away from what the actual ground reality is. And you're talking about discourse, Now, this brings me to the third layer of the lateral entry subject, which is the political layer. Look, there can be no denial. You have to be living under a rock to think that the political compulsions do not exist in the Indian governance.
Obviously.
कल एक भारत बंद हुआ, बिहार में बहुत वेल ऑर्गेनाइज था. It did not have a national impact. No Bharat Bandh in last few years has had any impact, at least since 2014, since I started covering politics. मुझे नहीं दिखा. It was very well organized because why? The Supreme Court, in its ruling, said that the government should consider a creamy layer in SC and ST groupings. BJP ने उसको नकार दिया. The Prime Minister met a group of MPs a couple of days thereafter, and he addressed their concerns, which was a message to the general public. We are not considering what the Supreme Court is saying about creamy layer in SC and ST. ये भारत बंद करने निकल गए कुछ लोग, led by the Bhim Army, which was in the news yesterday, saying ये हमारा reservation छीन रहे हैं. अब, like it or not, there has been a very, very calculated, elaborate attempt to create this narrative that somehow BJP is taking away reservations. Deepfake के थ्रू अमित शाह की वीडियो जो थी वो इलेक्शंस में किया गया, अभी फिर से किया जा रहा है कास्ट सेंसस के पिच के थ्रू. अब लोग कहेंगे बीजेपी इसके बारे में क्यों कुछ नहीं करी. भाई कर रही है, दे आर एड्रेसिंग इट, बट अंडरस्टैंड द स्केल ऑफ पॉपुलेशन इन इंडिया एंड द स्केल एट विच इंफॉर्मेशन ट्रेवल्स. It takes 5 minutes for something to be amplified amongst 5 million people. It takes an hour to be amplified in entire country. And it takes years before it can be taken off social media. So the government is doing what it has to. The party at a party level is doing what it has to. But understand, there is a narrative, there is this misinformation on the ground that the BJP wants to take away caste. Now think about this. इसमें अगर आप यूपीएससी का कॉकटेल घुसा दो कि अरे वहां से भी रिजर्वेशन हट रही है, what will happen in certain states? Now, people will say, oh, this is the failure of BJP's communication. I'm sorry, it's not. This is what the cost of information warfare and a gullible population is. And that needs to be factored in. Are you telling me that rather than delaying 45 appointments, you would have a full-blown caste war in a couple of important states with high population density? I wouldn't be that stupid.
Yeah.
If I am actually thinking as a politician, as an astute politician who wants to run the country for the next 50 years, I'm not thinking that way. I'm not giving the opposition an opportunity on a platter. Jao, caste pe aur narrative further karo, because I cannot delay 45 appointments because some influencer sitting somewhere in Noida will get angry and write a long post saying that I have lost my mojo. That is not how real politics works. I'm sorry to break it to you. There are strategic retreats. If you read the history of World War II, and everyone should read the history of World War II, if you think that America or England or the Allied forces won every battle, you are highly mistaken. They won the war. They did not win every battle. Winning a war doesn't mean winning 100% of the battles. And again, this is not a justification of what the BJP did with lateral entry. It's a reality check for a lot of people who are missing the larger picture. उस दिन मैं किसी को ऑनलाइन समझा रहा था, कुशल, and this is just about the discourse. I said, you need to piece together 3-4 news items, what the SC ruling is, what has been said by the people in the opposition, what the people are interpreting it as, and the importance of UPSC in the hinterland. And I was labeled as a BJP spokesperson. Oh, you are arrogant. Oh, you do not want feedback. I am not responsible if people are even unwilling to be a part of discourse and educate themselves on the larger picture. एक बड़ा मस्त डिस्कोर्स चलता है कुशल, एंड आई एम सॉरी आई एम टेकिंग अ व्हाइल हियर, फार्म लॉस पे.
टेक योर टाइम.
सरकार ने फार्म लॉस वापस ले लिए. किसी को ये पता है फार्म लॉज आने से पहले the farming community had a right to trade with the private sector across every single state of India. This government has been the one that deregulated APMCs, fruits and vegetables from APMCs at a large scale level. It pushed for it. That is why your big baskets and Adanis can get you fruits and vegetables so easily, because the APMCs were deregulated when it came to horticulture under the Modi regime. वो कोई नहीं बात करता, बट सब कहते हैं अरे फार्म लॉ वापस ले लिए, मोदी सरकार कमजोर है. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? द फार्मर्स आर वर्किंग विद द प्राइवेट सेक्टर. नॉर्थ ईस्ट से कितना हॉर्टिकल्चर एक्सपोर्ट मिडिल ईस्ट में हो रहा है. मेघालय के वो पाइनएप्पल जो राहुल गांधी बात करता है, कर्नाटका से कितना कुछ जाता है, कॉफी जाती है कर्नाटका से, गुजरात के आलू चलते हैं. पंजाब के किसान खुद अडानी के साइलोज में जाकर अपना ग्रेन स्टोर करते हैं. तो ये कहां से एक इंटरप्रिटेशन आ रहा है दैट द फार्म लॉज हैव बीन टेकन बैक, सो इट्स द फेलियर ओवरऑल ऑफ द फार्मिंग कम्युनिटी. द फार्मिंग कम्युनिटी हैज लॉस्ट. नो, only the state of Punjab has lost, which could have benefited big time. And you see that in the law and order there, in the fiscal issues there. Their chief minister after 2022 is running behind the center. Give me a loan, give me a moratorium. ये कोई रिसर्च नहीं करता. मेरी प्रॉब्लम क्या है? आई डोंट माइंड पीपल sharing their opinion on something being withdrawn, but at least educate yourselves. What the farm laws were about was getting a uniform set of laws on transactions between the private sector and the farmers across India. That did not work. So the state have their own laws, which are more or less the same, and the farmers are trading with the private sector. The only states that are at a back foot are mainly Punjab, not even UP, from where the western part of which, from where the protesters also joined, or Haryana. तो ये मोदी की हार कैसे हो गई? पंजाब का जो डिसएडवांटेज है, पंजाब में जो प्रॉब्लम चल रहा है इकोलॉजी का, वो मोदी की हार कैसे होगी? ये अपना डिस्कोर्स चलाने के लिए जो एक रैंटिंग डिस्कोर्स होता है, आपने इतना गलत इंटरप्रिटेशन कैसे कर लिया? और एक लास्ट चीज, 2024 April, this government was sitting with the farmers of Punjab. Also was Bhagwant Mann was there, and this government said, we are still willing to give you a contract, diversify. ये 5 पल्सेस है, तुम ये उगाओ, हम तुमसे अगले 5 साल बिना किसी अपर लिमिट के खरीदेंगे, तुम डाइवर्सिफाई करो, तुम्हारे यहाँ पानी खत्म हो रहा है. The Punjab farmers rejected, the government walked out, the Punjab CM was sitting there egging on the farmers, हाँ हाँ रिजेक्ट करो रिजेक्ट करो. किसका नुकसान हुआ? मोदी सरकार की हार है या किसानों की हार है? All
किसानों
I
की
want
हार
is
है,
people.
पंजाब की
तो
हार है.
फिस्कल स्टेट मैनेजमेंट किसकी खराब है? गुजरात की तो खराब नहीं है, यूपी की तो खराब नहीं है, बिहार की तो खराब नहीं है. स्टेट बजट्स आर आल्सो अ थिंग ना, क्योंकि सब यूनियन बजट में स्टेट एलोकेशन ढूंढ रहे थे. पीपल हैव प्रोबब्ली फॉरगॉटन स्टेट बजट्स आर आल्सो थिंग. सो व्हेन पीपल से द फार्म लॉज इज सॉर्ट ऑफ अ बेंचमार्क फॉर मोदी टू विथड्रॉ एवरीथिंग, आई एम सॉरी बट दैट्स अ वेरी वेरी रॉन्ग असेसमेंट.
No,
एंड
let's
आई एम
look
गिविंग
at
यू.
let's
या
look at that argument. Let's take that argument head on. Uh, are there legitimate criticisms of the government? Yes, there are. If you would have said, I'm disappointed that the lateral entry bit has been held up, it's fair. I'll give you an example of a fair criticism. People may not agree with many things Shekhar Gupta says, but you should see the cut the clutter of Shekhar. Shekhar was really disappointed with the lateral entry being taken
या
back. Shekhar was really disappointed with the farm laws being taken back. Shekhar's very pro market. Shekhar has always been very pro market, pro excellence, pro development. Shekhar Gupta has never hidden his biases, and there he's always right wing on these issues. Shekhar is left wing on many other issues, and that's a fair criticism. That's a fair criticism. um, what has happened on social media is, and I got no shame in saying this, luckily in my case I'm not dependent, my podcast is not dependent, and I take a lot of pride, and I want to take this opportunity to thank all those members who run my podcast, is because from day one I knew that I don't want to be a click farmer. I want to talk about issues, whether 5 लोग उसको देखते हैं कि 5 लाख देखते हैं is immaterial. If I create a community of members who support me on a monthly basis, then I can literally talk about issues on a factual basis. Whether then BJP gets hurt, Congress gets hurt, TMC gets hurt, doesn't matter. And I have always been transparent that I am a BJP voter. I am very sympathetic to Hindutva. I am an open disbeliever. I've never hidden anything. What happens on the social media market is that because a lot of people are truly dependent on the revenue model that comes from the views, and it applies to everyone, whether on the side of the Congress, whether on the side of the BJP, it is literally diluting the discourse till the extent that only sensational things are shown. Like I give you the example of that guy in Canada. Recently, there was a Hanuman statue in Texas, and all the click farmers who wanted to attack started showing that Hanuman statue in Texas and started to make money. There is this random Canadian handle who's working for a media organization, is worried about what's happening in Texas. So, pai tu apna desh dekh le. वो टेक्सास का वीडियो शेयर कर रहा है. It's just that the incentivization of all this rubbish has led to a lot of people who actually have no subject matter expertise and are getting forced to opine on everything. Listen, I barely opine. Like, I'll call you, I'll call others, I'll ask questions. I barely opine. But I follow politics and policy making at least from 2008, which is why मैंने तुझे क्या मैसेज किया था? Let's be very open. मैंने तुझे मैसेज किया, तुषार पीआरएस लेजिस्लेटिव पे जाते हैं, चल देखते हैं क्या हो रहा है. Am I making it up? मैंने तेरे को सामने से मैसेज किया. And you know how I got to know this? Someone I know, I don't want to take her name, she's a member of my podcast. She reached out to me. She's like, ऐसा परसेप्शन बन रहा है. मैंने बोला कैसे बन रहा है? मैंने बोला आपको पता है कितने बिल्स वापस लिए गए थे कांग्रेस के टाइम पे, और आपने कंपैरेटिव किया है कितने बिल्स वापस लिए गए मोदी के थर्ड टर्म तक.
People should take a wild guess in the live chat as to how many bills were withdrawn by the UPA. Take a wild guess in the chats.
Yeah, UPA 1 and UPA 2. Let me see how much
combined.
you know. बताओ. UPA 1 and UPA 2 बना के बड़े ज्ञानी हो ना, बताओ कितने बिल वापस लिए थे उन्होंने.
क्योंकि ये किसी न्यूज आर्टिकल में नहीं लिखा, किसी ओपिनियन पीस में कहीं नहीं लिखा. इट हैज टू बी कैलकुलेटेड और ये कहीं नहीं है. आई नो बिकॉज आई सर्च्ड. तो आप लिखो. बट ऑन डिस्कोर्स, अब उस दिन क्या हुआ, राहुल शिवशंकर, who I think is with CNN. Yes, he's with CNN. He tweeted that the government may consider caste enumeration in the upcoming census. And भाई लोग शुरू हो गए. राहुल गांधी शैडो पीएम है, राहुल गांधी का ही एजेंडा चल रहा है. भैया डिस्कोर्स में लोग इतना लिखने लग गए, किसी को अब उसमें से 1% जनता को ये नहीं पता था that in 2024 February, when this party had 300 odd seats, they had stood in the Supreme Court and said, we back the sub-quotification of caste within the SC and ST groupings because we want to erase the inequality there. ये फरवरी में इनका स्टांस था. कोटा विद इन कोटा की जो बात होती है, सरकार ने तो अपना स्टांस फरवरी से क्लियर कर रखा है कोर्ट के सामने कि we back it. We want to remove the inequality within SCs and STs because some communities are getting more, some communities are getting nothing at all. How is a possibility, and this is a possibility, it's not even confirmed, it's a big if. How is a big if coupled with someone the government is agreeing on way before it had 240 seats somehow a sign of weakness? यही होता है जब आपकी जो मेमोरी होती है ना, वो कंप्यूटर की रैम की तरह होती है. It's not like a hard disk, but it's like a RAM. And then you start opining. अरे देखो ये तो झुकने लग गए 240 सीटें. अरे ये तो कांग्रेस का एजेंडा ही चला रहे हैं. अरे भाई, read up. Congress's caste census is increasing reservation cap by beyond 50%. They are talking about private sector reservations. They are talking about diversity communities and whatnot. This government is saying quota within quota to remove inequalities within the SC/ST groupings. They're not even talking about creamy layer. Let's not confuse. Some people, miscreants will say, "Arey, matlab you're saying they're going for creamy layer." No, they are saying we just want to ensure everyone gets everything. Two different interpretations and opinions on caste while approaching caste by two very different parties. People on social media say, "Arey, ye to ek hi baat kar rahe hain." And then if you tell them, "No, this is not how it works," "Oh, you're a spokesperson." I am not an official spokesperson, just to clear it out, right? And number two, these are facts out there in the public domain. Kushal and I just have access to the same newspapers as you do.
Yeah, which is more mehanti. Now, let me show them how many bills were taken back. Ladies and gentlemen, so somebody said 24, somebody said this, somebody said that. This is just the first page, ladies and gentlemen, of the bills that were taken back. मैं चल और बड़ी कर देता हूँ स्क्रीन, और पूरी स्क्रीन कर देता हूँ मैं, और अपने आप को और तुषार को हटा देता हूँ स्क्रीन से 2 मिनट के लिए. हाँ जी महाराज, ये देखो ladies and gentlemen, this is the PDF. Tushar had sent me a Word doc. I converted it into a PDF so that I can upload it over here. And for those who keep talking, do a comparative analysis of kitne. So it starts with the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes reservation in posts and services bill of 2024, and this is just the first page of 23 bills, and it goes all the way to 45 freaking bills that were taken back in 2 terms. Now go and compare this with how many bills that have been taken back through the pressure of this opposition. First of all, that is also up for grabs. Kitna opposition ka pressure hoga? I'm not saying all 45 over here were taken back because of the pressure of the opposition. I'm not stupid like many people who keep making these claims. But there were 45 bills. 45 bills that were taken back. मोदी हैज नो कंट्रोल, मोदी हैज नो कंट्रोल, मोदी क्या बिल पास करेगा, मोदी क्या इस बाल का है. अभी मालूम है, अभी देखना तुषार, बिना पढ़े मैं तेरे को बोलता हूँ, अब क्या लगे, ये तो कोएलिशन गवर्नमेंट थी, वो तो होगा ही, ये तो कोएलिशन गवर्नमेंट थी, ये तो होगा ही.
May I request you to pull that document up again and highlight point number 22, if it is possible.
बिल्कुल करते हैं, पॉइंट नंबर 22 करते हैं.
क्या था ये?
The architect, the
No,
National
22.
Identification Authority of India Bill 2010. ये याद है मुझे, ये याद है मुझे.
For those who still have not seen it, it's the Aadhaar bill.
Yes.
It's the Aadhaar bill.
That was taken back.
And who passed the Aadhaar bill? As many of would not know, it was passed by this government through the Rajya Sabha. Why was it withdrawn? Because this government, then government rather, fell prey to the activism, वो privacy वाला पूरा तमाशा जो होता था, and it was never passed. ये लोग वेलफेयर की बात करते हैं. अब मैं बड़े 2 इंटरेस्टिंग फैक्ट्स बताता हूँ. 2010 का ये विड्रॉन बिल देख लिया, ठीक है, एंड ये भी स्टैंडिंग कमेटी को गया था, which couldn't do anything about it. In 2014 January, the Congress discontinued its pilot project of LPG subsidy via the DBT mechanism. January 30th 2014 इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स का आर्टिकल है, क्योंकि और कहीं कवर नहीं हुआ था. बिकॉज ये सिलेंडर देने लगे थे, और सिलेंडर क्योंकि डीबीटी से होने लगी सब्सिडी, तो ब्लैक कैसे हो, और सिलेंडर तब बहुत ब्लैक होते थे. ये जो आज के फर्स्ट यंग बच्चे, इनको नहीं पता होगा कि एक टाइम पे सिलेंडर की भी एक फाइट रहती थी. अब तो पाइप नेचुरल गैस आ गया तो अच्छा रहता है. बट दिस गवर्नमेंट अंडर प्रेशर that people might not be able to access cylinders in the black market and hence vote against us, stopped that LPG scheme. January 30th 2014. A year later, a chief minister becomes a prime minister, rather a year later, who, he starts the scheme where he says, give up your subsidy. Middle class ko LPG ke liye. Middle class gives it up. More than 1 crore people. You're looking at the contrast in thinking, Kushal. ये जो लोग कहते हैं ना प्रधानमंत्री और कांग्रेस में क्या फर्क है, बीजेपी is Congress with the cow. They don't realize how stupid they look when they say stuff like that. Congress was scared that if we allow DBTs, black marketing नहीं होगी. इस सरकार ने तो सब कुछ ही DBT कर दिया 10 साल में. जाओ, नहीं करने देंगे black marketing. एक पैसे का हिसाब है. And people are dumb enough to think, and I'm pardon the strong language, but people are dumb enough to think that BJP is Congress with cow. That is not how the real world works. I'm sorry.
No, not only that, the bullshit arguments that people give is, so what? The BJP should not do what the Congress did. Listen, the Congress withdrew 45 bills in 10 years. The BJP is not even done 10. Some bills will be taken back. Yeah, this is not a zero-sum game, you morons.
A lot of people accuse that BJP was opposing Aadhaar. Prime Minister was opposing Aadhaar when he was the chief minister. Then he went for it. Because the Congress wasn't even able to pass their own bill. Congress to pro Aadhaar थी ना, उनसे क्यों नहीं हुआ 2010 में? And a lot of people do not know, before Aadhaar, there was a multi-purpose national identity card program also, which was started in 2006, shut down in 2009 by the Congress. They failed. उसके बाद Aadhaar शुरू हुआ था, which made Nandan Dilekeni also a lateral entrant. तो ये जितनी आबादी उतना हक जो
लेटरल एंट्री इज वेरी बैड.
ये मजे की चीज देखो, जितनी आबादी उतना हक करना है, मतलब डीबीटी तो करना पड़ेगा ना. डीबीटी का बेसिस क्या है? आधार किसने ले आया था? लेटरल एंट्रेंट. तो these things, I mean, it's funny the way Congress goes about it, and people on social media gullible, they latch on to it.
No, no, more than the Congress. Listen, the Congress is the opposition. Their job is to. What bothers me is uninformed muppets on social media who keep throwing muck at
Yeah,
the BJP while pretending to be the opposition and speaking truth to power. No, you're not speaking truth to power. You're just a dumbass. You're a
yeah.
dumbass. You want to criticize the BJP? Be fair in your criticism. Most
If
of
I
these
were to,
muppets did not even know 45 bills were taken back during the UPA. None of them knew that, because they did not have the cojones to pick up a laptop, go to PRS legislative, do the hard work like some of us do. They did not.
it's people need to research. I mean, एक ना impulse reaction बहुत common हो गया है, that oh I need to write this long post, I'm angry. Budget के दिन ये बहुत हुआ. Remember LTCG पे indexation पे, ठीक है, indexation पे the finance minister ended up giving a relief. Oh, they have gone to the vote down to the Congress agenda. तुम्हारी बात सुन लो तो Congress agenda, ना सुनो तो भी Congress agenda. भाई करे तो कोई करे क्या? My criticism for the BJP would be looking at the lateral entry. Why just a joint secretary post for Ministry of Data Analytics? अरे पूरी ministry बना दो data analytics की. My problem also is, and Alok ji had written a wonderful post this morning about ideas. कितने ये लोग हैं जो impulse reaction अच्छा देते हैं, ideas क्यों नहीं दे रहे? Okay, you say that the BJP is stagnant with ideas. That is their argument on social media. Where is your idea? One good idea you have given in 10 years? None.
अरे forget it यार, इन लोगों को लगता है ना इनके पास better option है to work with political outfits who think you can get work done
Yes,
with, right?
yes, absolutely.
Work with political outfits. I mean,
No, there are people.
grandfathering clause to be extended to 2024 was a suggestion given by many people on social
Yes,
media. They did not come on social media. They reached out to the finance ministry, and the honorable finance
yes.
minister heard them out. And it was the end of the story. Guess what? It happened
I
on
can.
my own podcast when Monica said, yeah, grandfathering ho jani chahiye. Guess what? You think Monica would not have spoken other places? And it
Yes,
happened
yes.
because some of us are heard, because some of us are respected.
No, I can actually vouch for it because I was present in one of those meetings. The government has been always earful of opinions, of feedbacks on a lot of issues. GST पे इतनी tweaking कैसे हुई है? They've worked with the MSMEs, they've worked with the industry. So are you telling me that the will of the BJP to improve the GST is a sign of weakness? How stupid you have to be.
They
COVID
clearly
में,
stupid people.
personally for me, Kushal, the most badass moment in Modi's entire reign up till now was that one point during the second wave when he came at 5 p.m., addressed the nation and said, screw this, states will not procure the vaccine, we'll procure the vaccine, we'll give it to the states, and it'll be done for free for the people who cannot afford it. The people who may want to pay can pay. I think for me personally, that's the most badass moment ever. The best address of the prime minister. It was so good. That is where he said, this is how I do things. तुम states को शोर मचाना था, वो केजरीवाल तब बहुत शोर मचा रहा था, हमें वैक्सीन प्रोक्योर करनी है, करने नहीं दे रहे. He said करो. महीने भर में 12 ऑपोजिशन लीडर्स ने लेटर साइन करके लिखा था, भैया वैक्सीन प्रोक्योर कर दो, सेंटर प्लीज कर दो, एंड दे डिड इट. People have poor memory. Either they are driven by impulse, or what I am starting to think is engagement farming. And there is this new term that goes on social media, I am black pilled. I don't even know what that means. Probably I'm getting old.
I don't give a shit about what
Nee, but
that
what
means.
does it mean? What does it
I
mean?
don't know
What
what
does
it
it
means, man. It just means people are stupid. I honestly have come to a point that people are stupid. They don't read anything. They don't read documents. They don't read essays. They don't read books. They don't read papers. They don't read anything. Honestly, they don't read anything. And I don't know how to say this. I don't care about their opinions. They are entitled to an opinion in a democracy. Everybody is entitled to an opinion in a democracy. Everybody is not entitled to be taken seriously by the government of India. And maybe all those content creators who keep yapping 24/7 on social media and keep farming clicks, maybe this is a message to them that is why the government doesn't take you seriously, because the government sees through this shit.
I'll give you another example. Yeah, I think a couple of days back, Piyush Goyal ji made a statement about Amazon and about e-commerce platforms. People suddenly are like, अरे देखो 240 सीटों पर आ गए तो अब इनको किराने की दुकानें याद आ रही हैं. I can bet you, Kushal, 99.9% of these people have not even heard about this government's work for the last 4 years on the open network for digital commerce. When Piyush Goyal made that statement about Amazon, he was not talking about Amazon
Hmm.
versus Kirana stores. He was talking about going from a platform centric e commerce model to a transaction centric e commerce model.
Yeah.
People should read up on what ONDC does, how it will benefit the Kiryana stores while retaining the ethos of e-commerce, while retaining the efficiency and comfort of e-commerce. But nay.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, my worry after, we are talking is people will come out and say, oh, these are elite. They are trying to look down upon the supporters of the BJP, the well-wishers. No, we are not. We genuinely are not. But
No, no.
you
You might.
cannot
I
sort
look
of
down upon anybody who's stupid. I just want to put this on record. Not Tushar, but I want to put this on record. If you're stupid, I don't care which political party you vote for. I look down upon you. There.
no, my only request to people is do not look at isolated events and then form your macro conclusions. आप 10 साल में एक दिन में एक इवेंट देखते हो, मतलब 3,500 दिनों में जिसमें 24 घंटे, उसमें आप 5 मिनट का एक न्यूज क्लिप देके पूरे 10 साल पे जजमेंट बनाते हो. हाउ इज इट सेंसिबल? Right? And I'm giving you so many examples right now. I can go on and on. But this entire defeatistness in the discourse of some people online, अरे ये तो कुछ हो नहीं रहा. अब उस दिन there was a comparison drawn. I think it was from the BJP handle. And it really triggered Abhishek Manu Singhvi for some reason. He was saying कि मैं इतना टैक्स देता हूँ, हिम्मत है तो दे दो. The man is triggered clearly. And people
पता
were
नहीं
writing, अरे ये
किसी ने तो
comparison क्यों करना?
किसी ने तो किसी का ट्वीट कॉपी करके लिखा था. आई थिंक राहुल रोशन का ट्वीट कॉपी करके लिखा था, अरे पैंट तो पहन ले फिर.
I
क्या
just
लोग क्या.
replied to him. No, I just replied to him asking, Sir, do you believe in Rahul Gandhi's idea of wealth redistribution with all that money you have?
Yeah. वो
But
थोड़ा ना देंगे.
again,
He's a good
again,
lawyer, Abhishek Manu Singhvi. I'll respect
of
him
course,
for
I mean,
that.
if he has made that money, clearly he's a good lawyer.
Yeah.
But jokes apart, Kushal, people need to understand there is a information warfare being unleashed by the opposite side, which brings me to my original point. Perhaps this opposition was very naive until 21, 22. But today they are pure evil. Hindenburg पे देखो क्या भसड़ मचाई थी. Markets gave a middle finger to that narrative. But even today they are saying, oh, there is a scam. Exit poll के दिन the market naturally, organically responded. They called it a scam. They are framing
इन्होंने
the SEBI
इन्होंने तो बोल दिया
chairperson
था निफ्टी गिर जाएगा,
because
निफ्टी ये हो जाएगा,
हाँ,
निफ्टी बर्बाद हो जाएगा.
I'll tell you, last year February I was on these debates after Adani actually had a big price crash, and people of the Congress or suspended from the Congress, people should understand who, टाइम्स नाउ पे नेशनल टेलीविजन पे बैठ के बोल रहे हैं मैं इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर था, मैं बता रहा हूँ LIC का पैसा गिर जाएगा. एंड देयर वाज दिस वंडरफुल एंकर एंड शी आस्क्ड मी, आई वोंट टेक हर नेम, शी सेड तुषार ऑन अ सीरियस नोट, दिस वाज ऑफ द कैमरा, शी सेड इज LIC in danger? I was like, no, what are you talking about? How can you even think about it? Do you think LIC can go down? LIC does not even have 1% exposure to Adani. And even when Adani has crashed, their investments are still making them profits because they made it so long ago. But that is how opposition's information warfare is working. They have realized they can't go for the economic warfare. So now they're going for the social warfare, the caste angle. And you, as a sensible government or a sensible political entity, you cannot be offering them opportunities on a platter. And that is what the BJP has been doing very strategically. भाई ये देख, इनका नीट पे पूरा नैरेटिव फेल हुआ. अग्निवीर का तो पार्लियामेंट में खड़ा होकर राजनाथ जी ने फैक्ट चेक किया. यूपीएससी पे इन लोगों ने ट्राई किया. एंड connect the dots. Their opposition leaders, some of their leaders say, हम तो बांग्लादेश जैसी सिचुएशन इंडिया में बनाएंगे. Do you really think they are not preparing or brewing a dangerous cocktail of caste and probably something like Hindenburg to get people on the roads to protest? Are people that impulsive that they cannot even see the larger picture? And why it's important for BJP to be strategic about things? Farm laws के protest के time यही लोग complain करते थे, why can't BJP be strategic? Today BJP is strategic, it's evolving, it's learning from the past episodes. Then these people have a problem. So कुछ भी हो, हमें लंबा पोस्ट लिखना है, हमें engagement farming करनी है, हमें black pill होना है, हमें ridicule करना है. And pretty interesting cheese, because since I spend a lot of time on Twitter, a lot of these anonymous accounts have come up suddenly in the last 6 months. Oh, the prime minister should resign. Oh, the Modi government is not one it's what it once supposed to be. Oh, I was a Modi supporter in 2014-19. Now I'm thinking to vote Nota, or I'll vote for the Congress, or I'll vote for Kejriwal. And I'm
Are
always
they?
wondering, ये कौन anonymous accounts आ गए? It's like a plague. But just to give you a context on reality, that is how things are in this domain on information warfare. And all I always tell people is just look at the larger picture. Pardon, before drawing a conclusion, like I told you about that quota within quota वाली बात, फरवरी में हो
Hmm.
चुकी है ये बात, पता ही नहीं है, पता ही नहीं है.
Be- because they are chasing headlines and clicks. When you're chasing
Clicks, just
headlines and
clicks.
clicks, you don't have to read, you don't have to think, you don't have to ideate. You just have to faff. When you are chasing it, you don't have to do anything. Like for a person like you and I, again, to put this up on the screen, for a person like you and I to come up with this, we had to do hard work. We had to go to PRS legislative. We had to look at data. We had to look at numbers. We had to look at everything to find out how many bills were taken back. That needs work. That is
Are you're
actual
talking
time
about
spent.
pressure. You're talking about BJP being under pressure. Their own leader was tearing up ordinances against his own government. Rahul Gandhi, to make headlines, was tearing up ordinances that were issued by his own government. That was how desperate he was in 2012-13. And you are talking about BJP being under pressure from the Congress. I mean, what nonsense.
So
Again,
that's a
I'm
whole
not saying
point.
everything is again, I'm not saying everything is hunky-dory or everything is perfect. There's a lot of work that we are still needs to be done. ठीक है, ये सबको पता है. हमने कोई वो नहीं कर लिया कि अरे सब काम खत्म हो गया. काम चलता रहेगा, 50 साल बाद भी चलता रहेगा. मेरी प्रॉब्लम अब ये हो रही है, लॉट ऑफ पीपल विद अ लॉट ऑफ रिस्पेक्टेबल रीच, एंड वी हैव डिस्कस्ड दिस बिफोर. वो गांधीयन स्पाइन वाला कमेंट भी आया था, इसी
Hmm.
उसमें आया था ना, रेज
Hmm.
में, कि एंड द सेम पर्सन द अदर डे मेड दिस कमेंट दैट what is the point of Vishwaguru when you can't protect Hindus in Bangladesh? Do you realize there are actually external forces waiting for military action by India, which is not calculated enough in Bangladesh, so that it becomes our another Vietnam or Sri Lanka?
Hmm.
I mean, I am not disrespecting anyone's intellect. I'm not disrespecting anyone's opinion. I hope it keeps coming. I only wish people with a lot of reach, a lot of credibility also, now that they're published authors and, accomplished professionals, they just do a little research, because what they put out in public is taken by a lot of their followers who are also BJP voters, or non-BJP voters, as the gospel truth. So just be a little responsible. I'm happy to admit I do not have that reach. I'll probably not have that reach even 5 years from now. But these people who are already there by their own achievements, by their own hard work, what stops them all of a sudden from being responsible? This is what I don't understand.
Because being responsible doesn't get clicks.
Yeah, again,
There.
that makes sense.
I mean, come on, brother. It doesn't get clicks. I could go around and have incidents of hate against Hindus increased in Canada. Yes, there is a slight uptick. Hate Canada crimes registered in the last 3 years has gone from 40 to 85. Registered crimes, hate crimes. I even shared the data online on my Twitter timeline. Is it an endemic of hate? No, it's not. Is there racism everywhere? No, it isn't. Both can be simultaneously true. Can Are we allowed to have a discussion around that? Or similarly, I busted the narrative with some racist Canadians who are trying to peddle that, oh, look at these people, crime has gone an uptick. I literally looked at the crime from 1962 to 2023 in Canada. Guess which was the worst time of crime in Canada? 1980s and 90s. अबे कौन से इंडियन थे तभी? इंडियंस तो तभी नहीं आ रहे थे भर भर के कनाडा में. अभी आए हैं. अभी भी क्राइम नहीं है तुम्हारा. So that's the whole point. But it's just stupid people
Yeah.
do stupid things. Anyways, we'll wrap it up now because I know you have to go. You're still got a lot of things. Okay, one or two questions. Let me see if there are questions. There are just comments, man. Okay, why are the second and third order effects of uh, on lateral entries not discussed, could this lead to reservations in private sectors few years down the line?
No, it won't. I'll tell you, if there are ever private sector reservations, now what most companies will do, they'll start hiring people as consultants. Simple. 10% TDS katwao,
Hmm.
naukri karo. And that is the future. I'll tell you, I'm very bullish on the Indian economy in the sense, I think 5 years from now, people would want to run themselves as enterprises, like a freelancer. कि मैं 3-4 कंपनीज के साथ कंसल्ट करूं rather than being with one, and that's already happening in a lot of domains, media mein especially, right?
Hmm.
But private sector reservations is an idea that the Congress is openly flirting with, happily flirting with. Their alliance partners have made it very public during the run up to the 24 elections ki hum to karenge. The BJP has been absolutely dead silence and against it. At least that was the stance during the campaign. And abhi bhi, they're talking about quota within quota. They're not talking about private sector. Jahan bhi aapko ye private sector reservation dikhta hai, it's always the left. Wealth redistribution, again the left in Indian context.
Hmm.
So I don't think we'll see private sector reservation. I don't think lateral entries and private sector reservations have anything in common. But
Yeah.
Kushal, can I tell you a wish? I'll tell you a wish, and this is again a personal opinion. I think people generally are so done with the pursuit of government jobs that I think reservations ऐसे ही irrelevant होंगे इस देश में, और कोई तरीका नहीं है.
I don't know.
You
उसके
know?
लिए थोड़ा और बड़ी इकोनॉमी करनी पड़ेगी. One
हाँ.
last question and we'll wrap up. What
Okay.
are the weaknesses of the Modi government? What can be improved and what new things need to be done? I think this is, I want to take this opportunity. This is a mature question.
Yeah.
This is a person who is thinking. What's his name? Sambal Vatsa. I want to appreciate you. It's a good question. This is a person who cares. And I'll show you a very tangible criticism. And this has been my criticism of the Modi government. They have given RBI and SEBI way too much leeway to play footsie with our economy. This is Rajiv. He had shared this. And I'm going to read Rajiv's tweet verbatim. Rajiv is someone who's a fair critic of the government. Here we go again. Indian regulators have stopped allowing local family offices to set up investment funds in its new finance hub. As they are concerned, these arrangements may be used to evade taxes and capital controls. Yet another pathetic decision by a regulator which cannot stop celebrating some random award given out by a third rate Italian magazine. The cost of this is Indian financial investors cannot buy and acquire critical technologies, leaving the field open to American, European, Japanese, and even Chinese buyers. Then, some years later, we'll go on begging as a country to the same foreign countries for FDI. The regulator will grin at winning another prize for its quote macro prudential approach. The only risk free existence is when you are dead. This is a fair criticism. This is something I will back Rajiv to the hell.
My only criticism, or rather an idea that I think has not found really much relevance, not acceptance, is one. I think 2019 say we should have started working on a separate ministry for data analytics. Number one. Number two, I think we need to have a White House briefing like structure from the PMO every day in multilingual
Oh
languages.
my God.
I'll tell you why. Because unfortunately, the opposition is on the constant path of information warfare. Social media does what it has to, but my idea has always been that by having a 6 p.m. and say a 10 a.m. briefing, 2 briefings a day, you set the course for the day in terms of how information goes out. बिकॉज वही हम पूरे जो 1 घंटा 1.5 घंटा बात किए, इतना गलत इंफॉर्मेशन पहले हो रहा, और अभी आगे बहुत होगा, बहुत होगा. ठीक है. तो आई थिंक दैट्स अनदर थिंग दैट आई होप दिस गवर्नमेंट हैड डन. Number three, which is more to do with UPSC and how it should be reformed, but that's a subject for another day, so we'll leave it here. But two things, I think: more data and more communication. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you. One of the biggest grouses, my dear friend Adit Kapadia. Adit lives in America, runs Mind Makers. Adit has been giving this suggestion for last 8 years, for the record. 8 साल तो मुझे याद है आदित्य बोल रहा है भाई, why can't you guys have a press briefing? What is this arrogance of the BJP government that भाई तुमको concept explain करने को क्या problem होती है, and let reporters heckle you and your ministers. What kind of a democratic setup is this?
Now, I'll give you an example why I stress it. A few days back, I made this tweet on X that You look at the derailment record, the safety record of railways under this government, barring that one very, very unfortunate accident, Balasore, Odisha. It's a great, massive improvement. But suddenly there are too many derailments, and
Yeah.
one doesn't understand why. And just a couple of, I think a week back, there was this video of this guy who was putting things on railway track, creating obstructions. And that was an act of sabotage. Agar Sabarmati Express derail hui, that was an act of sabotage. So that
Hmm.
is why briefing is important. You tell people this is what is happening in real time, because people are slow. It's not, you would say probably it's not the government doing. I'm saying do it because the people are unable to catch up with the kind of information overload there is from the opposition in the wrong manner.
And
It's a
what's the job
service.
of the government, boss? What's the job of the government if they can't even do a daily press briefing? Who's telling the prime minister to come? Why can't the national spokesperson of the party come? Why can't the people
No,
relevant from the ministries come? Why can't they
I
come?
would, I would say have a separate press secretary who sort of understands all the domains, like it happens in White House. But it's something that needs to be deliberated. We are just sort of simplifying it. But ये railway का मैंने example इसलिए दिया कि कितने लोगों को पता है कि there is a constant attempt of sabotaging the Indian railways. And क्योंकि and Kushal, here's the thing, जब ये derailment starting में शुरू हुई ना, तो suddenly लोगों ने बातें करनी शुरू कर दी. अरे ये वंदे भारत पे ज्यादा फोकस करते हैं, अरे ये इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन के चक्रों में पड़ गए. लोगों ने अपनी धारणा बना ली, उसको प्रोपगेट कर दिया. आखिर में क्या पता चल रहा है, उस दिन यूपी पुलिस ने बकायदा एक लड़का पकड़ा है who was putting stuff on a railway track, stones, cycles, what not, recording YouTube videos. He has a channel. He used to have a channel. अभी पता नहीं है या नहीं. This is an act of sabotage. This is a bloody act of terrorism. But people who are busy in their daily lives, they don't know about it. And I don't want the people to know about it when something really bad happens. So this is just one example. Again, just one example. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest criticism of this government, and that is a fair criticism of this government. Another criticism, in my view, is the way the government has let RBI and SEBI. As much as I respect RBI and SEBI, yes, I understand the government and the prime minister. And I know it for a fact believes in their independence. I don't know why so much independence is given to the RBI and SEBI from the current prime minister is beyond my functioning brain. हर चीज में उंगल जहां करनी होती है भारत में सरकार करती है, मगर आरबीआई एंड सेबी में कोई उंगल नहीं है. उनको तो ऐसा फ्री हैंड देके रखा है कि वो कुछ भी वाहियात डिसीजन लेते हैं. और फिर ये होता है. दैट्स बीन माय क्रिटिसिज्म कि थोड़ा तो आरबीआई एंड सेबी को डायरेक्शंस देनी चाहिए गवर्नमेंट को. दी ही नहीं जाती हैं. जो करना है
But
करो, आप
one
जैसे करना है करो.
one criticism I always find dumb as hell is that BJP is Congress with ka. I mean, anyone who says that na, उसने मतलब जिंदगी में अखबार नहीं खोल के देखा है. This is one thing I
पढ़ाई
must
लिखाई
point
करने
out.
को बोल रहा है तू. लोगों को शर्म नहीं आती तेनू?
Yeah.
Well, ठीक है यार, चलो. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for coming. I hope
Yeah.
people realize when the reason Tushar and I do these things together is a तुषार के पास इतना टाइम नहीं है कि वो बेचारा खुद का YouTube चैनल चलाए. दूसरा, I think it's easier because I can ask the questions and Tushar can give the answers and we can pool our resources together and share all these things. So I hope you guys appreciate whatever Tushar and I do over here. It needs a lot of hard work, a lot of thinking. So go follow Tushar on
And
X.
again, just I want to put this clarification out. There was no attempt to sound elitist today or look down upon anyone, but people really need to start researching stuff, connect the larger dots. There's a lot happening everywhere, but people can't see because they're not connecting the dots, and that's the only thing. Because मेरे को पता है ना, बहुत लोग कहेंगे elite आ गए, ये Lutyens gang है, खान market के नए गुंडे. I see those coming. So it's just a thing I want to put out. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
so on that entire Lutyens thing, right? कहाँ है मेरा फोन? हाँ, ये मेरा फोन है. इसमें पासवर्ड भी नहीं डाला है मैंने. कोई पिन नहीं है मेरे फोन पे. तुषार भी जानता है ये. मेरे फोन पे कोई पिन नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है. मेरे को किसी से कोई डर नहीं है. पॉइंट नंबर 1, अगर 1 रुपया मैंने बीजेपी से कभी लिया हो या बीजेपी एफिलिएटेड लोगों से लिया हो, कोई ये प्रूव करके दिखा दे. 1 रुपया. लाखों छोड़ दो, हजारों छोड़ दो, 1 रुपया. जो बोलोगे हार जाऊंगा. मुझे जो बोलना है मैं मेरे डंके की चोट पे बोलता हूं. जिसको सुनाना है सुनाता हूं. मैं किसी से ना डरता हूं ना कभी डरूंगा. जो चीजें मैं जानता हूं राइट विंग कंटेंट क्रिएटर्स और राइट विंग लैंडस्केप के बारे में, शुक्र करो मैं मेरा मुंह नहीं खोलता हूं, क्योंकि मेरे में शराफत है. किसी दिन अगर गलती से मैंने मुंह खोल दिया राइट और लेफ्ट इंडिया के बारे में, जो अंदर प्रेडेटर्स बैठे हैं, सेक्सुअल प्रेडेटर्स, फाइनेंशियल प्रेडेटर्स, दोनों लेफ्ट और राइट में, तुम्हें आइडिया नहीं है, तुम्हारा इंसानियत से विश्वास उठ जाएगा। मैं ज्यादा बोलना नहीं चाहता हूं, मेरा मुंह मत खुलवाओ किसी दिन, और अगर मेरी अतामाजी सटकली हुई किसी दिन तो मैं एक्चुअल में मुंह खोलूंगा, और मैं मुंह खोलूंगा ना तो तुम सब के बहुत सारे सो कॉल्ड गॉड्स वो एक्सपोज हो जाएंगे। The reason I do this podcast is not to make money. The reason I do this podcast, I truly believe in what I do. I literally believe in the freedom of expression idea. I literally believe in free markets. I believe that reservations are due for SC STs. I believe in those things. I believe in annihilation of Jati Varna. I never care if my guests agree with me or not. I have never imposed my beliefs on my guests. You can ask each and every guest who has come on the Cārvāka podcast. The one thing they will vouch for is Kushal never imposes his views on others. I have never done that. I'll never back off my own views, but I will always let my guests have their view. So if you want this platform to continue, join the membership program. ये मत समझना कि मुझे ad reads के ऑफर नहीं आते, मैं लेता नहीं हूं. I'll leave you guys at that. Take care. Bye bye.